We back at it. Soundtrack series. You know what I'm saying? We took a little break, a little hiatus, just a little small one, 365 days, was nothing crazy. So, what I'm saying? So we back. It's the same crew as before. And we finna get started. Soundtrack series. We're gonna debate some things. We're gonna keep it short and sweet. For y'all, we got Jay, we got Domingo in the top right, we got Osa and Sosa in the bottom right. So should be a good one. We're gonna kick it off with a good one though. Right? Who's the best West Coast label, TDE or Death Row? Both changed the game forever. If you could think of another West Coast label to add to the competition, feel free to bring it up. But right now, who's the best?
So I'll start off. I think both of these are great labels. So let's just put that out there first before we start, so nothing comes off as hate. But I think the answer is Death Row, and I really don't think it's particularly close. And here's why I say that, right? I think TDE is very top heavy. You have Kendrick Lamar is their superstar. He's the guy. You have SZA, who is of equal status. But then once you go beneath those two, it kind of falls all the way off the map. You go down to J-Rock, who's a mid-tier kind of guy. He's mainstream, but he's not who you think of when you think of West Coast rap at all. And then you got Reason and Glasses Malone is CTD. I don't even know, right? It just falls directly off the map.
Are you going to eliminate Doechii?
Yeah, some people, bro.
Well, yeah, Doechii's cool. She just want
to Q.
Let me finish now. He was again of that secondary status, and Doechii's story is yet to be written, right? Her story is yet to be written. We don't know where she will go. She has amazing potential and she's super talented, but we don't know where she's gonna go. Now we can go to Death Row. They're tier 1 or S tier guys. You have Tupac, you got Dr. Dre, you have Snoop Dogg. Those 3 names alone beat anything that TDE can ever come with, okay? Snoop Dogg is the most recognizable figure in rap music history, period. Dr. Dre is, if not, one of the top 2 or 3 greatest producers of all time. And Tupac was not only a music star, he's also a movie star. He's also the epitome of pop culture as well. So Death Row, S tier, just squashes everything. And then you go down to the second level, and then we could start talking about Nate Dogg, who again is one of the best when it comes to melodies in hip hop. And then if you really want to get tricky, I could just throw Lil Bow Wow in there as a mid-tier guy.
Please stop.
Please stop. Who is a hip hop legend. Okay? So Death Row, I think, certainly is the greatest West Coast label, maybe the greatest label ever. And then I think TDE is the greatest label at developing talent, but their talent doesn't really stretch to the lengths that Death Row's did.
I feel like your point about being top heavy is more reflective of Death Row than it is TDE. I feel like TDE has probably 2 megastar talents in SZA and Kendrick, but then it pyramids down like accordingly. Like every label has that. And I think Death Row has like these top guys, but like no one talks about like a Nate Dogg, or like you said, Bow Wow had his time with them. I mean, even Dre is not a rapper. I wouldn't even count him. And then you have Snoop Dogg, who's not really a great rapper, but is super influential. And I mean, Tupac, we've talked about him at length. He's also not a great rapper, but again, is super influential. Don't do that. Compared to their contemporaries, who has Snoop Dogg ever out-rapped? Who is Drake?
He's a contemporary. It's Pac and Big. He is a contemporary. And
Bro,
says Snoop Dogg is
now rap the Big. Stop it.
Stop it. Now you know that.
I'm from New York. I agree with you. But then when you talk about the greatest rappers of all time, the conversation for the first 20 years of the sport is Pac or Big. If you go to the West Coast, they're probably still tell you it's Pac. That's blasphemous.
I'm not Tupac not in my top 5.
That's fine. You saying he's not a great rapper is blasphemous.
But you know who is approaching my top 5 is Kendrick Lamar, who happens to be on TDE. So when I'm thinking about who is a better label, who brought up Kendrick Lamar is TDE. So I have to put them above Death Row, no question. You have a top 5 rapper all time. You have one of a top 5 singer and pen. I guess her pen is amazing. And SZA. You have a rising star in Doechii. You have a semi-classic act in Schoolboy Q, and then you have some mid to lower tier guys that have respectable discographies. Where Death Row does not have that, and they fizzled away in years. Like longevity also plays a factor in how successful something looks.
Yeah, so to piggyback off that, my take, I'm going with TDE, and a big part of that was the amount of time they spent being at the top of their game. Unfortunately, Tupac met his demise early on. Snoop Dogg really the only person that I can think of from there that's, lasted, had longevity in the game. Whereas, you're thinking about all these TDE artists, they not going anywhere anytime soon. And then even the mid-tier artists, like Dom said, they have respectable discographies when nobody's really talking about the mid-tier artists from, Death Row unless you're in California. They know about them. That's about it. So I'm going with TDE on that one.
Yeah. I'm going to definitely go TDE as well. I think you missed some notable names, Jay. When you think about Schoolboy Q, you think about Isaiah Rashad. Like, I keep going down the list. Lance Skywalker, Zakari. Yes, Absol. Yes, they're not S-tier artists, but we've gotten hits from each of these artists. And I think that's what makes a great label, right? You've made your artists relevant, and now it's up to them to kind of just keep it up and stay relevant. So TDE's done what they needed to do, push the artists forward, giving them hits, that they can kind of put their career on, and then from there just flourish. I haven't seen that from Death Row. Death Row don't even exist no more.
Okay. Oh, so
let's stop there. Snoop owns Death Row right now. Okay, so Death Row is.
But are they adding artists to it still? What's the last artist?
They don't have to. Their most current label.
Their most current artist is that October London dude. That's kind of, he's weird. He's a songwriter type of dude. He's not really a superstar, but because he's trying to take it R&B.
Well, I'm sure they still.
I was gonna add. Osa did bring up something I forgot. I'll give Death Row this. They had better branding and marketing for sure. Because that Death Row, their merchandise is has lasted longer than the careers of the artists and the owner itself. So they definitely went crazy with the merchandise for sure.
No,
I feel like once you ask someone that don't know music like that, go ahead, finish it though. My fault.
No, you go.
If you ask someone that doesn't really all right, let's say we go interview people on the street, we're like, what kind of artists on Death Row? What kind of artists on TDE? You can't, no one's telling you the kind of artists on Death Row.
You can't do that because Death Row was founded 20 years before TDE. So you can't say, if I ask somebody now, but I bet you if you go around the world, if you show someone a picture of Kendrick Lamar versus Snoop, don't say, who do you recognize? I guarantee you Snoop wins every time. Yeah, I bet that.
Again, legendary.
Now let me ask you. Let me ask you a question. Tupac versus Kendrick Lamar. Who's the better artist? Okay. Okay. Snoop Dogg or who's the next artist on TDE?
Technically SZA, I guess.
Okay, Snoop Dogg or SZA?
As far as what?
The better artist or the bigger artist?
Snoop Dogg. Those are
it's not a question.
Well, music wise,
everything.
Yeah.
Put it in whatever category.
Snoop Dogg winning that. He just
okay. Now, who's next? Who's next on the TDE lineup?
Maybe Schoolboy or
Dr. Dre or Schoolboy.
Dr. Dre.
All right. Who's next on the TDE lineup?
Doechii probably.
Doechii or Bow Wow?
Come on. He didn't even have
Bow Wow.
First of all, we counting Bow Wow.
Yes, he signed to Death Row. Doechii or Bow Wow?
Bow Wow.
that's hard to say.
All right, now who's next?
J-Rock.
J-Rock or Nate Dogg?
Yeah.
Nate Dogg.
I know. I don't want to get
Death Row, getting them out of here. TDE has longevity due to some other things, but in terms of just a hip hop staple, It's death row, and that's what everything I'm saying is with all due respect. This is just talking about two of the best people to ever do it.
We're gonna move the
In
subject.
2025, last question. In 2025, who would you rather sign with, Death Row or TDE?
But in 2025, I'm signing with TDE. But if you start both of them at the beginning of the labels and say, who would you rather sign with? I'm going to sign with Death Row rather than TDE. If you take both of them and say, hey, this is the time period.
You crazy. You a wild boy, because that man Suge Knight was getting his own artist, jumped in the studio and shit. I don't know if I'm signing with
He bailed his own artist. He bailed his own artist out of jail and made him the biggest rapper in the world. You go to TDE, that album might not come out.
It might not, but they gonna make sure I'm well fed, and they're not gonna put me in a headlock in the studio.
Maybe.
Okay. That was a good one. Well, speaking of, Kendrick Lamar did, right now he's at the top of the game, right? So, we can acknowledge that, and he had a great Super Bowl halftime show performance. But with that being said, we've done all the Super Bowl halftime, Kendrick, all that talk. We've done it the past few weeks. Now, what I want to know is, who do y'all think will be the Super Bowl halftime show performer for 2026? You get 2 picks. I give y'all 2 picks.
Off rip, I think Post Malone is going to get the nod. I think Post Malone, and I have to come back to the second one, but I think his catalog kind of deserves it. I think we went really, really urban leaning this past Super Bowl, and I think they want to kind of shift that a little bit. Also, he's been in a country bag, which is going really well right now. So he'll probably bring out some artists that we know and love, maybe a Dolly Parton, maybe a Shabuzi or whatever, maybe a Jelly Roll. I think that's going to go really well for the audience. So I mean, it's all about money. So whether you respect him or not, I think he's going to get the nod.
I respect that. If 2 picks, I'll probably agree with you on Post Malone as a 1 pick. The second pick I'll probably give is probably Beyonce. I feel like they'll run that one back. She's about to be in her 3rd act when it comes to music of this album. So I feel like that can end up closing it out. She did get snubbed for the country award. So I feel like, they may try to highlight Black artists in that aspect because that did happen. But ultimately, yeah, I would say second pick Beyonce.
Yeah, I already did a section on this, so everyone knows I picked Pharrell. I think Post Malone is actually a really good pick because I think he has obviously his origins on the more urban side of music, and then he can also transition to country. So I think that's a good way to appease very different types of crowds and bring them together, which is really football when you think about it. So I think that's a good pick. I agree with you there.
Interesting. I will say, if you look at the trend of who Jay-Z has picked, has been very pro-Black. So will he possibly switch it up? Possible. But I'm still leaning on it's going to be a Black person because he's trying to send a message. But I believe it'll be someone that's more approachable to mainstream culture just because of he's like, okay, I did this Kendrick thing, and Kendrick did what he did, and I understand it, but he this time around, it's got to be somebody that's a little more approachable to, all types, all walks. So I really don't, who did I say? Oh, I said pro-Black, but in the chat, I definitely said Mariah Carey. So I'm going to stick with that.
That's her last album, though.
She got his.
He does have hits.
She got his.
Only Black people look at it like that. Because if Aerosmith went up there, nobody would say anything. They ain't make nothing in fucking 80 years or whatever.
Yeah. So I say Mariah Carey just because I think he's gonna go with someone that can sing. Post Malone can't sing, so that's not far off. But I think he's gonna go with a singer.
I know my second pick. You just brought it up. It's Jay-Z. This year is the 30th anniversary of Reasonable Doubt. It came out in 96. You don't think? I think he's going to have to pick him at some point. Why not do it on the 30th anniversary of your first album?
That could be.
How old does he turn this shit?
It was almost 50 something, mid 50s. But the only thing is, I think he just wants to separate himself from rap entirely. So I think he's just in the CEO bag. Or maybe he'll do it at the Super Bowls in like the tri-state, maybe. But
No, but they only keeping it in warm cities now. Like, I think they confirmed that. Like, I feel I agree with you. I think he want to stay in his business bag. But like, you got to do at least one, bro. He's a legendary artist. 30-year anniversary of your amazing album. Why not just like go out with a bang as far as the rap career? Because he's like 54 or something. He's not.
Yeah, that's why I asked his age. Because he's not, he don't want to be performing too long. He not no 50 Cent. Like, he don't need to perform.
Yeah, I think he avoids. I think he's gonna avoid that entirely. I don't think he'll ever perform halftime. He may do one song if he has somebody that has, his song with him. I don't think he'll ever perform though, because I think he's trying to separate himself from it looking that crazy. Like that's damn near insider trading. Like I'm gonna just, what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna put myself on the bill. It's not gonna go over well publicly. But yeah, I think Pharrell. You said Pharrell, and I think that's honestly a great pick. Because he has hits. It's not gonna be boring because it's like the Dr. Dre thing where it can be a bunch of your favorite artists instead of just one. I would be, Pharrell would go crazy. He got that I'm happy, everybody happy.
Oh yeah.
Legendary, like 20 years of hits. Now is that, not to switch the subject, but like, is that another dig at Drake? If he brings up another artist that Drake has beef with?
I mean, I think any artist you choose at this point is going to be an artist Drake doesn't really get along with unless it's going to be somebody from Atlanta or Louisiana, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
So I think these little back and forth tidbits are going to continue. That's not going anywhere.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So speaking of a halftime show, let's be real with ourselves, right? Does Chris Brown actually have a shot at performing at Super Bowl halftime, or is he permanently blacklisted from ever doing so? Because musically, he should have been up there years ago. That's how I feel.
Oh, I think there's two ways to look at it, right? If you look just at the music, he should be a shoo-in. He should be a shoo-in. There's no reason why he shouldn't be the first person they call to do the show. In terms of music, he has the crossover records. He obviously has the ability to perform. I think he's probably the best living performer. I know some people will say Beyonce, which I would never be mad at, but I think Chris is just a little bit above her there. But the reason why I don't think it will happen is because of Roc Nation. Roc Nation is in charge of picking a halftime performer. There may be a little bit of bad blood still left over there because Rihanna's on Roc Nation, even though she has publicly forgiven him for his actions. I don't know how it will really be perceived if Roc Nation chooses Chris Brown. It'll be a tough one. I would love to see it. He did win a Grammy this year, which shows that the mainstream is accepting him, and that maybe it's time that people forgive him. But there's a lot more actions that have taken place, even since the Rihanna incident. So I think he deserves it just on a music and talent level. But I don't know if we're going to see it based on some more personal or business wise things.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I was going to kind of say the same thing. Roc Nation, by them kind of putting him up there to fix their bag, a lot of tabloids are going to start speaking on things, connecting to Rihanna, Roc Nation, Chris Brown. So I don't think that will happen, but I think what we could see happen potentially in the future is Chris Brown performing at the World Cup. As we know, we're having World Cup performers now. So I think that could happen for Chris Brown in the future because it's more separated from Roc Nation in general, and it's more so the World Cup trying to kind of ease. So I think that could happen.
I can see that too. Yeah, I think Chris Brown will probably get in there in the next few years. I think it might be too soon. I think they gave him a test with like, all right, we're gonna give you your Grammy. You deserve that. First one ever. Crazy. The Rihanna thing happened at 2009. That's almost 17 years ago.
It'll happen.
Look, we let Dr. Dre perform, and Dr. Dre really has a bad history, and people like to ignore that a lot. He might be a better person now, and that's not really none of my business for real, but we let him go. Dr. Dre is a well-known woman beater. Like,
I wouldn't say well-known. I feel like the only people that are aware of it are people that actually dig into the intricacies of the hip-hop game. But, you know, I think when it comes to stuff like this, PR is the main thing, and it's like everybody knows the Chris Brown and Rihanna thing. Like, but I don't think everybody knows Dr. Dre's whole history.
You're right. But yeah, bad history nonetheless. And yeah, you're right. The PR has helped that because Dr. Dre seems like such a good guy that works with everybody. But 17 years removed, I guess because we were so young, it's so ingrained in our lives.
Well, it just goes to show all Chris Brown had to do was chill after the Rihanna. But like Jay said, he had like 5 more incidents that were very similar or just like stalkery type of, that was close enough to where like, come on, he kept adding fuel to the fire, man. You got to, after that one incident, he should have, you can't mess up no more. And then the time's got to pass, but you kept adding on to it. Dr. Dre, you know what I'm saying, he lays low. He's not in the spotlight like that. So it's nothing, nobody really talks about it.
Yeah, in the social media era is different, man. If you did things in the 60s, 70s, 80s, your crowd isn't really on social media being active. You do something now, it's cameras on, lights, camera, action every time. So,
yeah. And I think it also contributes to the people he's been dating too as well. Like these are also other prominent figures in whatever respect, whether it's modeling, music, etc. So I'm not saying that, if it was just a regular woman or whatever that wasn't like popping in her lane like that, it wouldn't be big, but it's like there's other rappers that have dated Karuchi since, so it's gonna always look crazy. Same thing, not to segue or get off the topic, but same thing with Kevin Porter Jr. Always gonna associate him with that incident that happened because there's other NBA players now that are dating her. So I feel like that hurts Chris Brown as well.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, speaking of artists with, shaky histories and shaky, tabloid mentions, I want to touch on Drake and Kanye. And specifically, I want to get your taste on when do you think Drake and Kanye's peak was? When was Drake and Kanye's peak? And don't tell me Donda, don't tell me For All the Dogs, because we all know that ain't the answer. So, with that being said, who want to start?
All right, to be honest, we might have had the same year. Because when did Views come out? I think Views is Drake's peak, and I think 2016, and I think 2016, with that Life of Pablo. Yeah, I think both of their cultural influences were very much aligned as far as like what they influence and who they influence. I think the music was pretty much at its peak. I think that was some of the best universal Drake we've ever got, and we got rapping Drake, we got R&B Drake, all in one album that, was kind of cohesive as far as like the story of Toronto and all of that. But yeah, I would argue 2016 for both of them.
2016, huh?
Yeah. I don't know here, man. I think when you say peak, you got to look at it a little differently. So I think the musical peak of Kanye is 2010, right? My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, I think, is his best and most complete album. He's coming off Graduation. He's coming off 808s and Heartbreak. So I think you're just seeing trending up in 2010. And let me just look up what else was he doing in 2010. I don't know if the sneakers are out. Okay, so these are the Yeezys are out at this time too, right? So I think this is also his peak of influence with the Nike Yeezys is crazy right here. So his career is so long, I can see why you say The Life of Pablo, because that's a dope album. He's with Kim at this point. This is the biggest couple on earth, so I get it. I see why you say that. But I think musically, I think when he's in that bag and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, that's it. Now Drake, when you say Life of Pablo, that was 2016, and that's Drake's pen on a lot of those records. So I could see that. I could see that for Drake. Summer 16 was crazy. He's coming off the Meek. Is that the year he's coming off the Meek Mill?
Yeah, it's coming off.
It was Meek, and then he carried that into a legendary like run of like features, penning.
Because he was touting that whole Summer 16 during the Drake beef. I mean, during the Meek beef, like Summer 16 would be crazy.
Yeah, Summer 16 is elite. So Drake's career is just so long now. It's like LeBron. Like there's just multiple peaks. You got LeBron in Miami the second year. Then you got 2018 LeBron. It's just they're so good for so long. It's hard to identify one point. But I could see 16, or I could even see 2018 Drake commercially gets even bigger. I think that's the key.
So technically,
I can see either one of those years is it for me.
So technically, if that's their peak, then currently they're descending, is what y'all saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a natural progression. Yeah, I talk about this all the time. Life is a bell curve. No one is going to maintain that level of excellence for that many years. And even them trending downward still has them above, levels above anyone else. So it's fair to say they're trending down, but that's
looking be the same way, Jay. I think I look, so if we're like comparing it to like it's like Jordan hit a certain peak in 91 that carried into most of the 90s. I look at the same way with like these guys. Like, okay, they hit a point. Kanye hit a point in 2010 with my dark beautiful twisted fantasy that carried into like 2017, 18, and yeah, they are kind of trending down. I think that was a good point, Z. But that peak is like God level of like the sport of rap. So yeah, I guess they're going down, but like the sell's still there, the influence still there.
Yeah, like I agree with the both of y'all. More so you, Dom, with 2016, so Life of Pablo, for Kanye, and also Views for Drake being their peak. And so here's my reason why. You know, they have primes, right? Primes exist. I think when we look at Drake and we look at both Kanye, they started hitting their prime at My Dark Twisted Fantasy. And what was that for Drake? Not So Far Gone, but what was Take Care? That's Take Care for Drake, right? Yeah. So they start hitting their prime now, right? And your prime can go on for however many years. We can talk about it with basketball, right? When we look at LeBron, he started hitting his prime pretty early, 2009. He has no business in the finals and shit like that, right? In 06. So he started hitting his prime in 09, understood he needed to go over to the Miami Heat, hit his peak, and what I would consider when he went back to Cleveland, because like athleticism and IQ wise. So when I look at like peaks for both of these artists, I'm looking at it not just music, but sales, influence. 2016, everybody's wearing Yeezys. Like, yeah, there was the Nike Yeezy, but everyone was wearing Adidas Yeezys. And he was dropping colorway after colorway. People bought it, and we're talking about like the peak of botting too for sneakers. So that's why I kind of compare those two as their peaks.
Yeah. Do you think any of these artists can see a higher peak than before the end of their career?
No, so no.
I mean, I asked that because Kendrick's trajectory is different than others because he just hit a peak, and it's like it was unpredictable, and he's not at the beginning or middle of his career for real. But this is definitely his peak. So, do you think it's possible for them to, pull a rabbit out of a hat with something astronomical? I personally, Kanye, no, I think it's done for him because he's done too much to tarnish his overall image. Drake, I think it's possible because one, when you go down, I mean, you can go back up higher, but two, because of the internet and the way the internet works these days, that's the same reason Kendrick has, reached his odd peak at an odd point in his career is because the way their careers in the internet has intersected where, you can go super mega viral and really be the talk of the whole entire world in a matter of a day, which they couldn't do before, earlier in their career. So I think, if something stars align, I think Drake could possibly, hit an astronomical peak. Maybe this World Cup, when he do this World Cup show, who knows?
Let me ask you then, if you think Drake can hit a new peak, what can he do to solidify that besides the World Cup? Because like if he gives us another legendary album, we're just gonna be like, all right, he wanted them ones, but I don't think he's gonna get new listeners. He's not gonna like change our minds about anything.
I think it's gonna have to be great music matched with virality, a viral moment matched with maybe a great performance like a World Cup, a big stage like halftime show, which he's probably not gonna do, but a World Cup or some mega stage, all at the same time, and I think it's possible.
Trust.
Yeah,
Music,
I don't,
no, go ahead.
it's just a strong no. I mean, Drake's biggest first week biggest sale at this, it says here 732,000 with Scorpion. I don't think he's ever touching that number again, and not because the music market is
with the
good.
views. He passed the reviews. I think he did 1 million pair. I think he did.
That's what I thought. But think what popped up. Let me see here. Let's see views first week sale.
Hey, you think I thought Scorpion was a bigger debut than Views? Because Scorpion had that.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Streaming wise, yes.
Okay, a million
Right.
first week on views. A million first week on views. He's not doing that again. That's not happening. I think the next album he's gonna do bundles like the rest of the artists do, but I still don't think he's gonna hit 1 million first week. I think he's gonna walk away from the game. I think we get one more rap album in the next year, and I think that might be it for him in terms of trying to stay in the spotlight that much. Before this whole thing with Kendrick, he already said, I'm taking time off, or even said, I'm thinking about retiring, period. So I already think he was already in that mind state, but now this has just dragged him right back into the game. So I don't think he's ever going to be that guy again. And there's no one to replace him. So it just keeps him in that cycle of making music because there's just no artists who are currently making great enough music to get him and Kendrick and Cole out the paint.
I think we might get a full rap album from him next. That might change our opinion of like, okay, he can deliver bars. I don't think he's gonna hit those numbers. I agree with you, Jay. And I think he probably goes the Jay-Z route where he pops out every so often. Because I think he's like in this fun having mode with music right now. So like if you want to have fun with a new artist, or a new sound, then I think he'll pop back out. Yeah, I agree with that. He almost 40.
Now, what if he pulls LeBron and Bronny, and his son grows up to be some type of sensation, some internet sensation, and then they decide to do a joint album? You're talking 1 million sales, possible. So I just feel like I wouldn't write it out that he could possibly, the stars could align. Something happens. I mean, for artists, it just takes something in their lives to happen that's very dramatic and gets people to tune in, and then them to make music off of it, and then they have a amazing run. Like Kendrick, he didn't plan for it, but something in his life happened and it worked out that way. If his son ends up growing up and he's like 18 and he does something super viral, and then they decide to make a joint song and that song goes insane, like you never know. So we'll write it out just because of the internet era is just absurd.
I think you
have the dreams going viral right now on TikTok. Old song from, I forgot what song it was, but it's a viral sound. It got people dancing to it. I'm like, this is the dream. What is he doing? Where even is he right now? He's not even out promoting music, but he going viral.
Beyonce got him locked in the dungeon somewhere. Bro.
Yeah, if he wanted to, if he was smart, or if he wanted to, he probably don't want to. He already rich. He could pop out and.
I think he beefing with Beyonce. Actually, she doesn't perform the song he wrote for her anymore.
Oh, did I?
I was working. Well, I think they worked together with Renaissance. That was the last I heard. I don't know about.
I think they got a little issue. That's why she doesn't perform those records. I don't know what he did. I think he might have spoke on some business he wasn't supposed to speak on.
It's usually how this should go.
But to close out your topic though on the peaks, I don't think we are gonna get any more peaks from Drake in the sense. I think we're gonna get moments. You made a good point, Z, about if his kid became an artist, or internet sensation in the future. We will get moments in the same ways that we've gotten moments with Will Smith and his kids and Jaden and Willow. So I think we'll get moments, right? Like you can't really say like Will Smith has had other peaks. I mean, you could with him getting onto IG probably for the first time, but I was consider that a moment.
No, it's a moment.
Consider that a peak, to be honest. Yeah. So I think we'll get peaks. I mean, moments from Drake.
I think a peak is like you got hit multiple different industries and lanes throughout a whole year, like Kendrick just did. I would count that as a peak. Mm-hmm. A moment, like you say, oh, he took over Instagram for a little bit, but a peak is like, you drop some music that's fire, and then we see you hosting like the biggest show in the world, and then we see you, now you in a movie that did well, and now like that's a peak. You just on a run that's just like, God damn. So that's how I feel. But with that being said, moments and peaks and moments. Let's segue to our last topic. We have Ice Spice. What happened to Ice Spice? She was running the game last year. We can all agree on that. But what happened? Now all we see is her in a box with Taylor Swift watching football games, and she don't even date a football player. So is she taking a break, or did the industry move on from that light sound that she was dropping that kind of got, played out after the Barbie stuff?
I'll take this. And what I'm going to say is not so much about Ice Spice, but this is just about where music is at and where society is at. I think right now there's two things. There's celebrity and popularity, and then there's talent. And when celebrity and popularity match the talent, that's when we see a real star. I think the talent is here, but the celebrity that her label made her is just up here. And now when public perception is catching on to what's happening, people aren't interested anymore. So when you continue to do the same song or the same sound, it just gets boring. People don't want to hear it, and then they're looking at you, and then they're finding ways to tear you down. So I don't know if you remember, she had the text messages with her best friend or former best friend that leaked, that kind of made people look at her a different way due to some colorism issues. And then the music didn't really match, and the next album or the debut album didn't really sell. And then it's like, well, what happened to this person? And I think her management team was genius. They marketed her perfectly. They had her with all the right brands. I think she was with Sprite.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts, everything. She was matched perfectly. But then the music didn't deliver. And I think that's where we see the fall off. And I think you're seeing something similar in Cardi B, who had an amazing 2 years, and then we haven't heard anything since. We're still waiting on the second album, and then we get these little singles or these collab records that come out, and it just doesn't hit the same because Cardi is such a big personality, but Cardi the musician is not hitting at the same level as Cardi the celebrity. And I think that's where we're seeing Ice Spice. That's where we're seeing things with Cardi B, and it's just not adding up, and people are confused and saying, well, what's going on? So I think we need to see the musical development and the musical sound evolve and match the personality. And shout out to Motown Records, who was great at this, making talent meet celebrity. TD is also great at that as well.
I agree with that. The quote of this is, real music is going to last. And we're in an era where someone can pop off for like a niche sound and go viral and have their moment and sign and da-da-da. But then it dips off because the development isn't there. Where the difference between music now and music then is that they developed in a background, or you spent years in development. And we noticed that some of the people that have stood out from our childhood, so like the last 20 years, were writers before who played the background, writers or producers that played the background, that developed who they are, their story, their sound. Now we're jumping, then a person dips off and spends years in development. And we noticed that with a notable name in that is Lil Yachty. I'll think of some more names, but he's probably at the top of that, where he spent years in decline and developed his sound behind the scenes. Now he's paired with the biggest artist in the world, Drake, and penning for other people and creating viral moments by himself. But it took years of like figuring himself out after his viral moments in the early 2010s.
I mean, you could say that for all of everyone that's on that label. Because when you look at like Miami, she had her moment, right? And now she's like trying to work and get back to the music. I'm not saying that she's putting out good music, but you can see that she's trying to develop her sound.
But then the QC was funded and really started by the Migos, who spent years in development and years putting out filler songs that showed the world their sound prior to. And then, like you said, you could say that about everybody else on that label because they were already they were hitting a certain peak when the Migos hit a certain peak. So they were just throwing money at people. Like there's tons of artists that, like OG Macko, they gave a deal. Like OG Macko didn't have the sound for that label. He's an example of that, and RIP. But you know, he needed years in development. But with that viral moment, people's egos get too in play. So I think Ice Spice is a victim of that.
To piggyback off of all of this, I feel as if one, she's not done. She's not, you can't count her out. And personally, I feel this way because there are artists that have moments and there are artists that last. And so, I think there's an in-between. Cardi B and the Ice Spice, they're in that in-between. Even someone like Blueface or something, like, these are people that have moments and then they disappear from music and you see them elsewhere doing other stuff. And they might drop songs here and there and they don't really take off. But I think a big part about, you know, having huge moments that like really take over the world instead of just quick little TikTok virality, I think is you can still come back because your moment was so huge that you can take these breaks. Like Cardi B, she should really be a nobody by now based on the music she's been dropping. But because she can get on Instagram Live and talk on live for 30 minutes and then now she's all over the internet. Now she has all the publicity she needs to drop a hot song if she has one. So I think Ice Spice still has that virality where her moment was so big and people like her for certain stuff and she's been attached to so many things that it's easy for her to come back and take over another moment if she has a good song. And so all it takes is a good song. Now that comes down to, does the artist really care to grow and develop, and maybe are they open to other writers and other producers, or are they in their head and they think they got it and they just like that? And you know, Blueface thought he's like that and you see where he ended up. So Cardi B is in that lane too, where she thinks she's too good for everything. That's why when she drops, nobody really cares. But I think Ice Spice does have the ability to at any time pop back out and have a huge year again.
Yeah, I agree on that. And I think, you know, while we are associating Ice Spice with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and just seeing her in the box and everything, I'm sure she's having conversations with Taylor Swift on like, how can I develop as an artist? And if she's not having those conversations, that's a shame, because you see the type of network that you have, you got to be tapping into different lanes. Yeah, it may not all be about music, but you got to kind of be learning from these people who are above you, have come before you, and have done it. So.
Good take. Now, we're going to wrap up, but we're going to get to this last topic. And I'll kind of segue, right? So I think Ice Spice idea I just had while you was talking, she going to pop out with her next thing. She's going to attach a product to something she does when she's ready to really pop out and make an effort. There's going to be a product that she's going to be selling because maybe she's having these conversations with these people that are established, and that should be what they're telling her. You know, release a product, do the Rihanna, put something out. You have a following, it just makes sense. But with that being said, A&P just released their product, so clearly they're talking to the right people because they just dropped the whole, you know, whatever you want to call it, facial care, deodorant, smell good type of line, aimed at teens, kind of older teens is what I got from it. But it's a product nonetheless. So these guys go viral just by talking. And, you know, that product probably sold out in a day just because. So shout out to them. What do y'all think about what A&P got going on right now?
I think these young men is nothing short of genius. And we've had these conversations behind the scenes, and you guys say, oh, they're going to be billionaires. And I always say, no billionaire without a product. And I think they've been thinking about this for a while and just figure, what can they make that they know is going to sell? So if you look at what's happening in the female rap community or female celebrity community, it's always skincare or hair care, even like down to scrunchies. So you look at Ari, you look at Jada, you look at Rihanna, it's all skincare, or it's, even Kim with Skims. It's a product related to just femininity. And now with the guys, I think that they're tapping into that, but also for the men, they're like, Kai has this thing where people say he smells bad. So it even connects to jokes about themselves. So I think it was a perfect product for them to do. I think it's something that it's easy to produce. And like you said, they have millions of teenagers who are ready to buy and support. So I've been waiting for it to happen, and it happened, and it was a good rollout with this long commercial that was action-packed. So I just want to tip my hat to those guys, and it even inspires me as someone who's older than them to go and put my opinions on a platform and see what could happen, because you never know where it could take you.
Yeah, I respect that. I think what they did is really genius. Them as a group and a collective to be booking these stars, not just them, but their team. When we think about like Kevin Hart, Snoop Dogg, and then I'm sure, like we said with Ice Spice, they're having these conversations behind the cameras with, Kevin Hart and Snoop Dogg. And like you said, Jay, a product, that's what's really going to get them there, right? And Snoop Dogg, he is a product in himself. He's really aligned with so many different business lines. Like, you always know his name and face. And then same thing with Kevin Hart, right? Like when we talk about like just banking commercials financially with Chase, Old Spice, like he's always, even though he's not creating the product, he's always attaching his name to a product. So what they're doing is amazing.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page. Pure genius. And skincare is something that doesn't have to change per season. Like, I see a lot of people start clothing brands, but clothing is hard because you have to plan seasons ahead, and it's always morphing. You might have a staple piece like a t-shirt, like a Supreme box tee, that is your staple, but now they can really work these 6 men's care products, and they all invite other stars onto their platforms. So all it takes is, Rara, your hand's mad ashy, take this. And now you got a viral clip from Ice Spice or Drake or whomever. Just pure genius. And we seen young stars make billions off of this. Kylie's whole net worth is based on her lip care or whatever it is. So,
yeah, and I think that product was a good choice because you don't hear the masses going against or finding negative things to say about those specific type products like deodorant and facial care, other than the fact of, oh, do you test it on animals? Like, and people don't even let that stop them from buying those type of products. So I think that's it's a great product to start with, because people aren't going to, oh, does it have aluminum in the deodorant? Kids don't care about that. But now when you come down to, they got lucky, but now when you come down to, Jake Paul or his brother and their prime stuff, that's one of those products where it's like, you're ingesting this is a food. And now people started years ago to attack it for its quality. It's not made with quality, all these, it's not good for kids, blah, blah, blah. I think they're avoiding that by doing a product like this rather than some type of food or drink. So I think it was a great choice. And yeah, they're definitely on their way to a B, but I still think Speed's gonna be, the first one to get there. He hasn't done a product yet. He's also way younger than them. He's younger than all of them. I think he's 20. He's not even 21 yet. So, when Speed does that product, I think it's gonna sell out in seconds because he's like international. What he's doing with touching every country out there is just absurd, and that's gonna pay dividends when he's ready to do some real grown man moves. So,
yeah, one quick thing I want to add there. One quick thing I just wanted to add there with Speed is that kind of when streaming started to get popular, those are kids that were the same age as Speed, right? So they growing up with Speed versus like with A&P, they're a little older. They're not older, but people look at A&P as like punk and shit like that. So I see what you're saying. Like, I feel like his market share is really underestimated in terms of speed. And then once he kind of hits that grown man age of his product time, like you said, seconds, sell out.
Yeah. I think Speed's about to hit a peak with the World Cup coming up. I think there's a product associated. I think there's commercials. I think there's connection with Drake and his show that's going to happen. I think he'll also think about product in this next year or so if it's not already in development with soccer, because he's so big in that world. Yeah, kids are doing it, man, for sure.
Crazy to see. Well, we're gonna wrap it up. Soundtrack series. We talk about music, pop culture, everything in between. Appreciate y'all, and yeah, I'll see y'all next time.
Love. All right, peace.
Thanks.